The subpoena against Taylor Swift has been dropped by Justin Baldoni's team. This was the plan all along. It's a very smart way of making this information public, but I'm sure that they made a deal already before this whole process started.
Blake Lively is in full public courtroom meltdown mode after her ex-bestie Taylor Swift dropped a quiet but savage bomb that flipped everything.
And that's all Justin Baldoni's team needed from Taylor Swift.
Girl, did you seriously try to blackmail your own best friend with decade-old texts and expect her to stay quiet? Well, then you're straight up delusional if you thought someone like Taylor Swift could ever be threatened. And the fact that she dropped her subpoena after secretly shaking hands with Friedman says everything.
It says here that this source is saying that Taylor Swift, the godmother of Lively's 3 daughters, is said to be relieved their decade-long bond is now over. Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
And honestly, from day one behind closed doors, what looked like a sisterhood to the world was rotting with manipulation and silent threats. According to multiple inside leaks, Blake wasn't just begging for support, she was demanding it.
When Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realizes it wasn't worth all the stress Blake put her through. She can now see all the red flags that could have been a warning to her.
And the cost of refusal was the release of a decade's worth of personal text messages, all stored, saved, and ready to be leaked if Taylor didn't play her part. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategic, emotional extortion, disguised as a plea for loyalty.
Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
Taylor was given 2 impossible choices. Either cave to Blake's threats and support her publicly, knowing full well it would destroy her own credibility, or refuse and face the wrath of leaked conversations that could be twisted out of context by tabloids hungry for scandal. There was no winning for Taylor in the traditional sense.
Or someone from Taylor Swift's team or someone close to Taylor Swift contacted Brian Friedman back in February 14 to be exact. He received a phone call from someone saying to him that Taylor Swift had been pressured by Blake Lively to delete evidence, to delete text messages between her and Blake Lively.
So she let someone else make the first move, her own father, Scott Swift. While Blake was busy strategizing how to pressure Taylor through legal threats and media optics, Scott made a quiet call to Justin Baldoni's legal team. And just like that, the script flipped.
And she was pressured to give a public statement or to support Blake Lively in public. And if she didn't, Blake would leak 10 years of their private text messages together. As I said earlier today, this didn't give Taylor Swift much of an option, either she would support Blake Lively in public, which could be like PR suicide for her.
It was Scott Swift, not Taylor, who informed Brian Friedman of the extortion attempt. On February 14th, Valentine's Day of all days, Brian received a call that would shift the legal landscape of this entire celebrity drama.
If she didn't support her, Blake Lively would release all these text messages, which could also affect Taylor Swift's career, like dramatically. I mean, there could be stuff in there, of course, that she doesn't want to get out there.
Scott made it clear. Blake had pushed Taylor into a legal corner, using threats of exposure to manipulate her into playing the perfect friend in public. Scott didn't need to rant. He didn't need to post a Notes app apology. He just needed to make sure the truth got to the right place, and it did.
Who wants their private text messages to be public? So what I think happened here, obviously, is that Taylor Swift's team agreed with Brian Friedman that he would subpoena Taylor Swift. They would file for it to get dismissed or for the subpoena to be tossed, whatever the legal term for that is.
With that one calculated move, Taylor was instantly protected from both legal exposure and PR backlash. The information wasn't coming from her. She hadn't broken any silence. Her name wasn't on the leaked documents.
And then he would send a letter to the judge explaining what had happened and why he needed that subpoena. And in that letter, all these things that we just learned about last week would become public. It's a very smart way of making this information public. And then I think Blake Lively's team agreed to make it a sworn statement.
But the details, the blackmail, the threats, the pressure, were now in the hands of a legal team prepared to use it. And suddenly, Blake Lively wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. She was in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, and her former best friend hadn't said a word.
And Brian Friedman made it a sworn statement. And when that happened, they didn't really need the subpoena anymore. And I think that's when they agreed that Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni's team would drop the subpoena against Taylor Swift.
What makes this twist even more devastating is how subtle the strategy was. Taylor didn't need to go to court. She didn't need to release any damning tweets. She simply allowed her father to step in and put the truth into motion. By the time Brian Friedman filed a sworn statement, it was already over.
The subpoena against Taylor Swift has been dropped by Justin Baldoni's team, and
the dropped subpoena wasn't a retreat. It was the sting of a perfectly executed trap. On the surface, it looked like Taylor Swift had dodged a bullet when Justin Baldoni's team withdrew their subpoena. But for those who actually understand legal chess moves, this wasn't a dodge. It was a setup.
And I think that's when they agreed that Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni's team would drop the subpoena against Taylor Swift. Because then all that information about what she did to Taylor Swift and how she threatened her and tried to extort her, all this information would become public.
In fact, sources confirm that Taylor's team quietly coordinated with Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, to issue that subpoena, knowing full well it would be dismissed later. Why? Because the real goal wasn't to get Taylor on the stand. The real goal was to expose Blake Lively's extortion attempts under the full spotlight of legal protection, and without Taylor ever having to say a single word in court.
But I'm sure that they made a deal already before this whole process started.
Here's how it played out. Taylor's team knew they couldn't respond to Blake's threats by engaging in a PR war. That would only turn the situation into a spectacle, dragging Taylor into the kind of public mess she's spent years avoiding. So instead, they built a legal backdoor. They allowed the subpoena to go public. That got the media interested. Then, as expected, Taylor's legal counsel moved to quash it, citing its unnecessary nature. This wasn't a failure, it was bait.
I wish I'd never met Blake. New humiliation for Lively as singer outs the glaring red flag she missed during their 10 years friendship.
While the media was spinning the subpoena withdrawal as a win for Blake, as if she had somehow deflected legal scrutiny, Brian Friedman was filing a sworn statement with the court. That document detailed everything: Blake's threats, her demand for Taylor's public support, the promise to leak 10 years of texts if Taylor didn't comply. It all came out, just not through Taylor herself.
It says here that this source is saying that Taylor Swift, the godmother of Lively's 3 daughters, is said to be relieved their decade-long bond is now over.
This is what made the move so cold and so brilliant. Taylor didn't have to lift a finger. Her lawyer made the world her witness. Every word that needed to be said came from an affidavit, not from a press release.
When Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realizes it wasn't worth all the stress Blake put her through. She can now see all the red flags that could have been a warning to her.
And while Blake's team was busy trying to paint Taylor as a panicked celebrity ducking subpoenas, they didn't realize the real damage had already been done. The public didn't need Taylor's testimony. They had something more powerful, a verified, court-filed statement under oath, laying out every disturbing detail of the alleged blackmail attempt.
And she says, or the person says, Taylor had to tone Blake down time and time again because she always wanted to be the leader of the pack. Taylor's relieved the relationship is over. She put up with Blake's antics for too long because she's a loyal friend.
This is what the media missed. They were too focused on headlines. Taylor's subpoena dropped to understand what had been inserted into the official record behind the scenes. Because the real bombshell wasn't the subpoena. It was what had been tucked into the court documents where no PR spin could erase it. Once that statement entered the docket, Blake Lively went from A-list actress to a legal liability overnight.
It is understood that a dutiful Kelsey is following suit in cutting off Lively and Reynolds.
The maneuver was so smooth, so polished, that even seasoned celebrity attorneys called it one of the most tactically vicious moves they've seen in a high-profile dispute. Taylor didn't retaliate. She didn't rant. She didn't go on an expose tour. She simply used the law, and it worked better than any public meltdown ever could.
This is, I think, one of the reasons that a lot of celebrities turns into monsters.
But the story doesn't end there. Just as the legal blow landed, Taylor's private feelings began to leak into the press. The Daily Mail ran an exclusive quoting someone reportedly close to Taylor, and the message was blunt. "I wish I'd never met Blake." No metaphors, no poetic lyricism, just cold regret. That one sentence carried the weight of a decade of friendship torn apart by betrayal.
Because not a lot of people would know that she had received a text from Blake Lively demanding her to delete conversations between them, text messages between them, which would be really like, deleting evidence.
Insiders say Taylor regrets their entire 10-year friendship, feeling she was used from the beginning. For years, Blake had presented herself as a loyal confidant, someone outside the usual Hollywood chaos. But behind the scenes, she allegedly sought to control the friendship, positioning herself as the leader of their inner circle, always needing to be at the center of attention. Those close to Taylor now claim she was constantly toning Blake down, softening her harsher tendencies, keeping her PR stunts in check, and smoothing over conflicts Blake caused. And for what? In the end, it was Taylor's name Blake tried to weaponize in court to save herself. The manipulation wasn't new. It had just finally crossed a line.
Not a lot of people would know that Blake Lively's attorney had been contacted by Blake Lively's attorney demanding her to support her publicly. If not, Blake Lively would leak 10 years of private text messages from Taylor Swift.
The scandal surrounding It Ends With Us was the final nail. Taylor reportedly stayed quiet for weeks, watching how Blake's team tried to shift blame onto Justin Baldoni, while quietly pressuring her to speak up. Taylor's refusal to play along wasn't just defiance. It was clarity. She had reached the end of the road. No more silence, no more smoothing things over. When someone shows you who they are in a courtroom, you believe them.
I have to blame someone for this, and that's why she sued Justin Baldoni, because she could not handle the fact that people didn't like her.
Even Taylor's inner circle has started speaking up, saying that the red flags were always there. The constant need for dominance, the subtle jabs disguised as jokes, the performative loyalty that vanished when things got tough. But Taylor, ever the loyal friend, kept giving Blake the benefit of the doubt, until Blake tried to turn that loyalty into a legal shield. And that's when everything changed.
So it's a slippery slope right now, and I'm enjoying watching it from the sideline.
This wasn't just a broken friendship. It was a calculated burn. And while Blake Lively thought she could outplay Taylor Swift in the game of public perception, she forgot one crucial fact. Taylor doesn't play loud, she plays smart. Her moves are slow, sharp, and irreversible.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend unfollowed Ryan Reynolds. That was kind of the first little trigger here to what was going to happen.
The moment Travis Kelce unfollowed Ryan Reynolds, it was more than just a click. It was a cultural shift. In the influencer age, Unfollowing someone on Instagram speaks louder than 1,000 tweets, especially when it involves two of the most powerful couples in Hollywood. This wasn't some accidental tap or unfriending over a silly misunderstanding. No, this was the public beginning of Hollywood's quiet war, and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were the first to get exiled.
And it says here, Taylor and Travis are disgusted with Blake and Ryan and how they tried to use Taylor in their fight against Justin Baldoni.
Let's start with the obvious. Travis Kelce has become more than a Super Bowl winning athlete. Since getting involved with Taylor Swift, he's stepped into a stratosphere of celebrity few athletes ever reach. His every move is analyzed, dissected, and repackaged into headlines, which is exactly why his decision to unfollow Ryan Reynolds set off alarms across the entertainment industry. Ryan wasn't just any celebrity. He was part of Taylor's closest inner circle through Blake. He attended private dinners, shared photos, and had his name embedded in years of tabloid features centered around the Swiftie squad.
They're vowing their break from the acting couple is permanent.
But all of that collapsed in one subtle gesture. Why? According to insiders, Travis and Taylor were disgusted by the way Blake and Ryan attempted to weaponize Taylor's celebrity status to shield Blake from the legal firestorm around the It Ends With Us scandal. When Blake allegedly threatened to leak Taylor's private messages unless she supported her in public, the betrayal wasn't just personal, it was exploitative. And apparently, Ryan wasn't just a bystander. He was allegedly right there with Blake, playing the supportive husband role while the PR machine spun lies about Justin Baldoni and buried Blake's role in the fallout.
This friendship is definitely over. On the other hand, it's really interesting, not very, but I'm going to report on it anyway, how People magazine and other industry magazines are reporting on this. They're reporting this as a win for Blake Lively.
That's why the unfollow hit so hard, because it wasn't just a breakup between two couples. It was a public, symbolic rejection of a power dynamic that Taylor and Travis no longer wanted to support. And once Travis unfollowed Ryan, the dominoes started falling. Selena Gomez, one of Taylor's oldest and most loyal friends, has gone eerily silent on Blake. No Instagram comments, no likes, no joint appearances. This might seem subtle, but in the world of celebrity friendships, silence is often louder than outrage. Selena knows how the game works. And when she chooses not to support someone publicly, it's almost always intentional.
It says here in People, not that surprised, but Taylor Swift no longer subpoenaed by Justin Baldoni in surprise reversal for Blake Lively's legal disputes. Earlier in May, the pop star, who's longtime friends with Lively, was sent a documented subpoena, blah, blah, blah.
Gigi Hadid is another name who's gone quiet. She was once part of Blake's close fashion circle, frequently appearing at the same events and in the same paparazzi shots. Now, not a single public interaction in months. She unfollowed Blake during the peak of the legal drama, a move that, at the time, went under the radar, but now looks like a clear distancing tactic. Gigi's silence on the matter speaks volumes, especially considering how close she stayed with Taylor over the years. Sophie Turner also seems to be treading carefully. She's been spotted with Taylor multiple times recently, including nights out in NYC, yet nowhere near Blake or Ryan. Given Sophie's current post-divorce media heat, she's likely choosing to align with someone who reflects stability. And Blake is the opposite of that right now. Hollywood thrives on alliances, and when public figures stop interacting, unfollow each other, or even refrain from attending mutual events, it's never by accident. It's a silent reshuffling of loyalties, a way of showing support without making statements that can be twisted or monetized. And make no mistake, the industry is watching all of it unfold.
Any third party who is unjustly harassed or threatened in the process It's amazing how they're making it a win for them. Do you think that Justin Baldoni's lawyer would have withdrawn the subpoena if he thought that there was anything else that he needed from Taylor Swift?
Meanwhile, Blake and Ryan are scrambling to appear unbothered. Blake has been doubling down on what fans are calling desperation posts, including awkward stories featuring Rob McElhenney and Caitlin Olsen, trying to prove she still has friends in the industry. But even those come off forced. There's a hollowness to them, a performative tone that only reinforces the idea that she's been abandoned by the people who mattered most. Ryan, on the other hand, has been suspiciously quiet. For a man who built a massive portion of his brand on snarky commentary and internet engagement, the lack of posts, comments, or statements is deafening. His team is likely trying to keep him out of the line of fire, but at this point, the damage is done. Losing Travis and Taylor means losing cultural currency, and that's something Ryan's team can't meme their way out of.
And do you think that they didn't have a deal about this? Don't you think they talked about this and agreed that this was the strategy? This is so embarrassing for Blake Lively's team. And Blake Lively's team continues to say, the Baldoni and Wayfair team have tried to put Taylor Swift, a woman who has been an inspiration for tens of millions across the globe.
There's also quiet chatter around John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. The couple has reportedly stepped back from Blake and Ryan as well, despite once being extremely close. Krasinski's unfollow of Blake was noticed by fans, and while no formal statement was made, that's exactly how these shifts tend to happen in celebrity circles. No declarations, just clean exits.
At the center of this case since day one, ex-Lively's rep claimed, exploiting Taylor Swift's celebrity was the original plan in Melissa Nathan's scenario planning document, and it continues to this day. Forced with having to justify themselves in federal court, they folded.
Blake Lively's team really thought they could spin this courtroom disaster into a win, but even the most gullible fan isn't buying the narrative they're selling. When Justin Baldoni's team dropped the subpoena against Taylor Swift, Blake's PR machine leapt into action with lightning speed. Within hours, a carefully crafted statement popped up in People magazine, painting Blake as the noble protector of third-party rights, as if she were some misunderstood martyr standing up against legal injustice.
At some point, they will run out of distractions from the actual claim of SH and retaliation they are facing.
The irony? They accused Baldoni of using Taylor Swift's celebrity to sway public opinion, while Blake has been doing exactly that for years. She has paraded Taylor's image in interviews, brand promotions, red carpet moments, and even manipulated her presence in the It Ends With Us campaign by tagging her in social media posts and dropping Taylor's name in press runs. Let's not forget the infamous floral photo shoot, where Blake practically screamed, "Taylor approved this," just to steal some of her spotlight. That's not protection. That's exploitation, wrapped in peonies and filtered in Valencia.
It's so funny how they're claiming that Justin Baldoni was the one who pulled Taylor Swift into this drama, while Blake Lively did nothing else than, except from, asking people to wear florals and promote her own products, pushing Taylor Swift while she was promoting It Ends With Us.
And now, with the legal trap sprung and the blackmail allegations made public through Brian Friedman's sworn statement, Blake Lively's defense strategy is crumbling. She's trying to act like she's above it all, like this is just a media misunderstanding. But the receipts are out there. The court has it. The silence from Taylor and the precision of the legal response say it all. The more Blake tries to talk, the worse she looks. Every denial, every awkward media placement, every tone-deaf statement from her reps sounds like a shallow echo bouncing off courtroom walls that no longer believe her.
She was the one who put her there from the beginning, and she said she was with her the entire time. So it's no wonder that Justin Baldoni wanted to subpoena her. But now they're like, oh, Justin Baldoni used Taylor Swift's celebrity. Who used Taylor Swift's celebrity?
Her team keeps pushing the same line. Blake supports anyone unjustly harassed, yet she allegedly blackmailed her own best friend behind the scenes. The hypocrisy is off the charts. The narrative has flipped so violently that even the tabloids, usually happy to kiss up the Hollywood elites, have started backing away. Her PR stunts have become too obvious, too calculated, too embarrassing to justify. Now, Blake Lively finds herself in what can only be called a courtroom spiral. What began as a strategy to shield her reputation has snowballed into a slow public unraveling. She's not defending her name, she's defending what's increasingly looking like premeditated celebrity extortion. That phrase isn't tabloid gossip anymore. It's legally documented, sworn, and filed.
There's one article in the Daily Mail with a source close to Swift saying this: "I wish I'd never met Blake. New humiliation for Lively as singer outs the glaring red flag she missed during their 10 years friendship."
And while her legal team spins and stalls, Blake is doubling down on distraction tactics. She's dropping performative Instagram stories with minor celebrities. She's leaning on Ryan Reynolds' name harder than ever. She's pushing lighthearted posts and "I'm just a mom" vibes, hoping people will forget the bombshells from Taylor's camp. But the internet has a long memory, and this time, the public is reading between the lines. The damage control isn't working, because the damage isn't just to her image, it's to her credibility. And that brings us to the next phase in the Blake Lively fallout, the celebrity exodus. It's not just that people are turning on her, it's that no one wants to be seen with her anymore.
One wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
And while Blake tries to pretend it's business as usual, the industry is watching. Hollywood loves a redemption arc, but it hates hypocrisy. And Blake's current strategy, deny, deflect, distract, isn't winning anyone over. It's only confirming the narrative that she pushed too far, threatened the wrong person, and lost everything that once made her untouchable. So, what do you think? Was this the final nail in Blake Lively's reputation, or is Hollywood still too afraid to call out its own? Let us know in the comments, and don't hold back.